Hello children. Welcome back to my channel. Warning, this contains boy love and this is 18+. And if you don't like it then please get off my channel. Water pistol. Grinning face with cowboy hat. Tsukishima was not going to kill his adorably stupid boyfriend. But he might bust his door down. Kageyama's title of king was fitting considering the monopoly the setter had over Tsukishima's hoodies. Which is a problem, as Tsukishima was generally cold without a hoodie, especially during the winter. Luckily, he claimed a couple of Kageyama's hoodies in return, though they looked more fitted on him. And Tsukishima had to roll up the sleeves, else it was obvious how short it was on him. And today of all days was the hardest, because Tsukishima had to wash his clothes. But Kageyama was hiding in his room. And he had every last one of them in there. Tsukishima banged on the door again. I swear to whatever god is up there, king, if you do not give me back my hoodies, I will. What? Tsukishima whirled around, confused. Kageyama was standing there, in his favorite baby blue, blueberry patterned booty shorts. And his favorite hoodie he stole from Tsukishima, an arguably adorable green dinosaur hoodie. Tsukishima promised to buy him his own, even considering the blue one in the same style, but always found himself hesitating, which was likely the fault of his lock screen being Kageyama in that exact outfit asleep, and cuddling one of Tsukishima's large dinosaur plushies that Kageyama scored for him at a carnival. Kageyama looked ready to laugh, asking, "Is something wrong?" Tsukishima went red from embarrassment, and Kageyama giggled behind his hand, adorably swamped by the sleeve of the hoodie he was wearing. Tsukishima, ignoring his boyfriend, and how adorable he looked, and instead spluttered before defending himself, "I was just getting my hoodies. You know that my doorknob is faulty, remember?" Tsukishima grumbled, still red, and watched his boyfriend jiggle the doorknob, opening it and walking in. Tsukishima followed, noting that the walls were mostly empty still, and his room was still mostly bland, save for the newest additions of a couple pictures of them hung up. And the dinosaur Tsukishima won for Kageyama on the same night Kageyama won him his, except this one was blue. Tsukishima was going to definitely tease him for that, and was planning to do it now, except he got distracted by an outline. See, volleyball was a wonderful sport. And it had wonderful results. Tsukishima didn't really reap the rewards, he wasn't super dedicated to the sport but Kageyama was, and liked buying booty shorts of just the right size. But the outline that distracted him wasn't Kageyama's dick, surprisingly. Not was it exactly his ass, but something that seemed to be in his ass. Yup, Tsukishima's adorable boyfriend was wearing a plug. Tsukishima walked up behind Kageyama, who was mumbling about milk, and grabbed his hips. Kageyama startled, then laughed. "It's a little hard to grab things like this." Kageyama was interrupted by Tsukishima grinding his hips into Kageyama's backside, making the setter moan and close his eyes. Tsukishima grinned in response and leaned over, grinding again, making Kageyama pant. "Is my bratty little prince that desperate? So desperate that you plug yourself up?" Kageyama moaned louder, dropping his head down and groaned, falling forward onto the bed. Tsukishima smirked, snaking one of his hands under the hoodie and trailing his hand upwards to Kageyama's nipple, lightly teasing it with the tip of his fingernail. Kageyama moaned again, even gasping as Tsukishima's other hand followed suit on the other nipple. Tsukishima led Kageyama to sit back up, encouraging one of his knees to balance on the bed. Kageyama's head met Tsukishima's shoulder, arching his back almost perfectly. Tsukishima slid his hands back down and grabbed his hips, pulling them back towards his own hips and grinded again. Kageyama's hands shot up to Tsukishima's hair, gripping as he moaned and canted his hips. He sagged against Tsukishima, panting. Tsukishima let his hands travel to the front of Kageyama's shorts, slipping in and dipping his fingers into the cum there. He brought his fingers out, the two of them lightly coated. Tsukishima held Kageyama up with his other arm, and brought the fingers in front of Kageyama's face. "Did my bratty little prince come without permission?" "Oh no no no," Tsukishima shook his head in mock disappointment, "I guess I have to punish this little prince." Kageyama panted, nodding along to Tsukishima's suggestion. Tsukishima smiled, then maneuvered Kageyama to be laying on the bed. Tsukishima grabbed Kageyama's shorts and pulled down, pulling them completely off and tossing them aside. Tsukishima watched Kageyama writhe on the bed, eyebrows raising at the panties Kageyama had on. They were lacy, also baby blue, and a wet spot on the front. Kageyama watched Tsukishima, whimpering. Tsukishima smiled down at him. You being cute won't help you now, I still need to punish naughty princes. Kageyama moaned and planted his hips again, causing Tsukishima to chuckle. He carefully, slowly pulled the panties off, showing off the cum that stuck to the inside, tossing them nearby his shorts. Tsukishima watched Kageyama close his legs together, trying to move the plug around. Tsukishima snorted, before reaching over and spreading his legs as he shook his head again. You can't do that, baby, I have to give you all your pleasure, remember? Kageyama whimpered and nodded, obediently spreading his legs. Tsukishima smiled, cooing praises at him, trailing a finger up his dick. Kageyama whined, but kept mostly still, only throwing his head back. Tsukishima smiled, trailing his finger down to the plug and grabbing it, not moving. He waited for Kageyama to meet his eyes. Kageyama took a minute, but raised his head enough to meet his eyes. Tsukishima spoke softly, do you know what I'm doing? Kageyama nodded. Tsukishima asked then, and what is that? Kageyama, slowly, answered, punishing me for putting the plug in. Tsukishima shook his head softly, I'm not punishing you, I want to play punish. You are not in trouble. Kageyama looked confused, but relieved, I'm not. Tsukishima shook his head, not one bit, my little prince. Keeping a hand on the plug, but not moving it, Tsukishima crawled up to face Kageyama, kissing him gently. When they separated, Tsukishima smiled down at him, you're doing wonderfully already. We're only playing, you're not in trouble. Kageyama nodded, processing the idea and repeating, I'm not in trouble, this is only play. Tsukishima nodded, good job. Want to continue playing this or do you want to change the game? Kageyama gave a pause, thinking, I want to keep playing. Tsukishima smirked, then you're going to come once more with the plug, then I'm going to fill you. Kageyama moaned, closing his eyes. Tsukishima called for him softly, Prince, my little princey, can you look at me? Kageyama nodded, opening his eyes to Tsukishima's amused face. Tsukishima continued with the soft voice, thank you for the little gift. And, if you want to wear it after, I can put it back. Kageyama nodded, okay, can we continue please? Tsukishima looked at him softly, playing with his hair, before moving the plug deeper, causing Kageyama to gasp while staring Tsukishima in the eyes. His eyes going unfocused when Tsukishima angled it and managed to hit his prostate. Kageyama's gasps when Tsukishima pulled the plug back then slammed it back in the same spot, melting at the sensation as Tsukishima continued with the same ministrations. Kageyama grabbed Tsukishima's arm, the one controlling the plug, when he started to do it slower, more deliberately. Going as far as to grind it all around before pulling it out again. Don't please. Please what prince? Do you want to come? Yes. Please let me. Go ahead prince, the sooner you come, the sooner I enter you. Kageyama moaned at that, throwing his head back and grabbing onto the sheets. Tsukishima laughed, you want that prince? You want my cock inside? Yes please sir. Please sir can I? Tsukishima grinded the plug against his prostate and held it there, leaning down near Kageyama's ear and whispering, then come for me, my little prince. Kageyama sobbed and came, landing partially on Tsukishima's sleeve, his own stomach, and a bit of the hoodie, on the inside, as it was folded over. Tsukishima tsked at the mess, looking at Kageyama and carefully removing the plug after a moment. He gently placed the plug on Kageyama's nightstand, then took off the hoodie he was wearing, looking up to find Kageyama watching him. And, even with cum on his stomach and his hole clenching and unclenching, needing to be filled, Kageyama still looked adorable. The sleeves were still too long, but scrunched around his wrists, his hands gently peeking out. At some point, the hood came up enough to hook onto his head, which cushioned his head as he blinked up, still needy. Tsukishima chuckled at Kageyama's pout. Let me get the hoodie off of you, so I can wash it with the rest of the clothes. Kageyama sat up, letting Tsukishima take the hoodie off. He sent it to the side, taking off his jeans and throwing them in the same direction. Are you my good little prince now? Kageyama moaned, nodding, and melting into the bed again, letting Tsukishima grab his legs and handle him so he was laying against his pillows. Tsukishima was smiling down at him, soft, and traced his face again. He pushed his hair out of his face, asking softly, "Are you ready?" Kageyama nodded, moaning as Tsukishima slowly entered, not stopping till he was fully seated. Kageyama felt safe and comfortable, and Tsukishima started a slow pace. Kageyama took off Tsukishima's glasses, kissing him deeply as he was softly, but firmly fucked. He moaned into the kiss, then held Tsukishima close when they separated. Tsukishima groaned into Kageyama's chest, lightly scraping his teeth against it occasionally, and sucking a couple haikyuus into it. Kageyama moaned and lightly scratched his nails against Tsukishima's back, only really gripping when Tsukishima sped up a bit, getting close. Kageyama grabbed Tsukishima's face, giving him another kiss. When they separated, Kageyama gasped out, "I love you." Tsukishima blinked, surprised, and smiled at Kageyama softly, saying, "I love you too, my little prince." They smiled at each other, kissing softly once more before Tsukishima buried his face in Kageyama's neck and speeding up once more, both moaning and groaning before coming at the same time, Kageyama feeling especially warm inside. He loves Kyoru's fingers, loves the way he unravels him with carefully aimed prods and pulls, but right now, he wants something else, wants more. They sat for a few moments before Tsukishima slowly separated from Kageyama. "Fuck me? Want the plug? And maybe a bath? Be a good boy and keep still," Kyoru orders, and then he pushes in, unbelievably slow. Kageyama shook his head, turning over in the pillows and showing off his hole, a bit of coming peeking out and dribbling down as he tried to keep it in. Tsukishima followed it with his eyes before scooping it up with his fingers and pushing it back in. "Move." Kageyama moaned, looking at him slyly, "Can you put the clothes to wash then come back and fill me more? Don't order me around," Kyoru grits out, grinding deep into him, and Tsukishima wails. Tsukishima laughed, "You're insatiable king." Tsukishima is lost in the feeling of Kyoru all over him, as those large hands grip his hips tightly, hold him up, hold him still as he pulls out almost all the way and then slams back in. Kageyama shook his head, "No. King, prince. It's hard, relentless, the way Kyoru fucks into him, uses him, and Tsukishima loves it so much, feels the arousal build up deep in his core. He's Kyoru's favorite toy, his baby, and he revels in the feeling of getting brutally taken apart by him." Tsukishima snorted, getting up and eyeing the plug, picking it up and showing Kageyama before placing it back in. Kageyama moaned and clenched around the plug, sending a confused glance at Tsukishima. "That's Kyoru's work phone, who the fuck is calling him at this hour?" Tsukishima smugly responded, "So nothing falls out, my prince." He looks over his shoulder, sees the blurry shape of Kyoru pulling out his phone and glancing on the screen. Tsukishima grabbed the remaining clothes, putting them to wash downstairs before going back and keeping his promise. "Haikyuu does not belong to me either. Warning, this fanfiction does not belong to me, neither does the fan art. Credits to the original artist and author, to the fan art and the fanfiction. Well, by children, smiling face with hearts."